Trump's team is going to want the judge to really spell out to the jury what it is they're being asked to convict Trump of, what law actually applies, because there isn't a specific law. This is the first type of case that we've seen of this nature that's gone before a jury.
Now, for weeks, America and the world have been gripped by the prospect of a US president being found guilty of criminal charges. It's the final countdown now because prosecutors and defense lawyers in Donald Trump's hush money trial are presenting their closing arguments in New York today. The former US president faces 34 charges of falsifying business records in connection with a payment to a porn actress before the 2016 presidential election. Mr. Trump denies covering up a payment to Stormy Daniels, which prosecutors say was an attempt to silence her about their alleged affair. Deborah Blum is a New York defense attorney, and she joins me now to talk through the closing day. Welcome to the show, Deborah.
Thank you for having me.
Well, it's a pleasure. How long will the closing arguments go on for? Will each lawyer speak for sort of 3 hours at length, or is it a 10-minute job?
Well, I'm not sure how much time the judge has allowed each side to close here, but it's expected to last all day. So we've had a lot of testimony. We've had 16 days of testimony, 22 witnesses, nearly 300 exhibits. So each side is going to try to convince the jury to do what they want. Obviously, the prosecution wants a guilty verdict and the defense wants not guilty.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the issues this verdict hangs on is the testimony of Trump's former lawyer, Michael Cohen, who has admitted to lying in the past. How influential was that testimony in your judgment?
Well, I think that this is a one witness case pretty much. It's whether or not you're going to believe Michael Cohen. Michael Cohen is someone who stole $30,000 from Trump without Trump knowing. And also he testified that he wouldn't accept a pardon from Trump, which anybody should take a pardon. If you're convicted of a federal crime and the president offers you a pardon, I don't know anybody who would say no to that. So the jury is being asked to believe him and credit his testimony that these hush money payments were something that Trump was aware of.
So looking at all the options that Trump faces, he's actually in quite a good position, isn't he? Because if he gets convicted and the standard is beyond a reasonable doubt because it's a criminal trial, first of all, if one juror decides not to find him guilty, i.e. it's a majority verdict, there's no such thing. He can't be convicted. It has to be unanimous. And if he is convicted, as a first-time offender, he won't go to prison, will he?
Well, I wouldn't say that he's in a good position, right? It's never great to be convicted of a felony and then he would likely be on probation. It's also totally possible that the judge could sentence him to jail, although unlikely. It's nonviolent offense. As you said, he's a first-time offender. Then it's going to be a long road ahead of him of appeals. I do think that there are a lot of appealable issues here. The other day, Robert Costello, an attorney who advised Michael Cohen, took the stand, and there was a face-off between him and Judge Merchan in this matter. And I think that some of the things that happened there could be appealable, as well as other things that occurred throughout the trial. I know that the defense asked for a mistrial a couple of times and the judge refused to do so. There could be something to that where you could see an appeal if he is convicted. As you said, all it takes here is one juror to hold out, because you cannot convict somebody in a criminal trial unless it's a unanimous jury and they all want to convict.
And
so it only takes one person.
And you know, as a defense attorney as well, at this late stage, could there be a plea bargain? I've been told that he could plead to a misdemeanor, which is not a felony, which definitely is a minor conviction.
Right. In the grand scheme of things, a misdemeanor is a very minor conviction. It doesn't feel very minor when your client is facing that and is potentially going to be convicted of it. But yes, compared to a felony, it's a much less severe conviction. It doesn't have the same consequences. Ultimately, I don't believe that there's going to be a last-minute plea deal here. I don't believe that the prosecution, after spending so much and so many resources on this case, is going to offer that. And unless they do so, the judge could sentence Trump, if he agreed, to the felony counts of his conviction, or it would be a conviction, the felony counts of the indictment. So that's how our system works. Either the prosecutor makes a deal, and if the prosecutor doesn't, you can go and ask the judge to sentence your client based upon the top count of the indictment.
And also, you will know, again, as a defense attorney, my understanding is that the jury could be out for up to 2 weeks. I gather that the jury, certainly from their body language at least, seem to be taking this trial extremely seriously, and they are likely to be sequestered for quite a while. They can ask for transcripts of the trial to refresh their memory and things like that. I mean, your best guess for how long you think the jury will be out?
I don't believe that they're going to be out for 2 weeks. That would be an incredibly long time. Usually, jurors, once they get to the end, do want to do their job as jurors and render a verdict, or ultimately come to a mistrial, a hung jury. I think that they will be asking for readbacks of testimony. They're going to probably ask for parts of the transcript. A lot of times, if it's, you can look for signs of the types of questions they're asking, but you really never know until the verdict is read what it's going to be. And if they're not coming to unanimous verdict, generally the judge encourage them to go back and deliberate together and try to get to a verdict.
You do
So
this
I have
very, very quickly, Deborah. Last question. You do this weird thing in America, don't you, where once the jury's come back, they can give TV interviews after the trial is over, can't they?
We do a lot of weird things here in America. I'm not sure what the specific ruling by this judge is going to be on any limitations on what the jurors are able to speak about with the media. So I'm actually curious to hear that. And I'm curious to hear the jury instructions here, because those are make or break. I know that Trump's team is going to want the judge to really spell out to the jury what it is they're being asked to convict Trump of, what law actually applies, because there isn't a specific law. This is the first type of case that we've seen of this nature that's gone before a jury.
Brilliant. Deborah Blum, thank you so much. What a fascinating time in the trial, particularly that insight into the jury instructions from the judge, and also whether or not the jury would be allowed to give interviews after the trial is over. Thank you for coming on the show.